This is the Harry Loomis Show. Welcome back here to the Harry Loomis Show. This is back when I'm going to talk about NASCAR. And on Sunday night, I really went into a rant about that finish at Richmond and kind of detailed how Austin Dillon's win was everything wrong with the playoff format. And we don't know the penalties. I don't see any way that they take Dillon out of the playoffs or anything crazy like that. I'm sure they're going to penalize Austin Dillon. I'm sure Joey Logano's going to get a pretty big fine for him kind of burning out on pit road right in front of Austin Dillon's family and everything like that. If you haven't seen that video, check it out on Twitter. It's not a great look for Logano. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a penalty coming for him. But instead of continuing to complain about the playoff format and everything under the sun, I decided that the only way you're allowed to complain is if you have a solution. So what I did was I created a potential new playoff format that I think could work. I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm not saying NASCAR is going to adopt this because they're not. But I think that there could be something here. So what I have, 12 drivers. It's kind of a hybrid of what we used to have, some other formats. 12 drivers. It's the top 10 in points. And we're going to bring back the wild card. So drivers from 11th through 20th with the most wins will also be in the playoffs. The difference is everyone gets their playoff points. With the old wild card format, the wild cards did not get their points for winning races. They just started at 2,000 points. That was it. That changes here. So we have the top 10 in points, and I believe, I don't have it in front of me, the two wild cards. Everyone from 11th to 20th had just one win. So it was 11th to 12th in points. That was Joey Logano and Tyler Reddick. And right away, you might notice something. This is from last year. Last year's champion, Ryan Blaney, did not make these playoffs. I did not plan that when I was filling this out. It just worked out like that. But you have 12 drivers, and the playoff points, those are pretty much copy and paste. Every one of these drivers made the playoffs. I have no problem with how the playoff points are bestowed as of right now. Stage wins, race wins, and where you are in the top 10. It's 15, first place gets 15, second place gets 10, and then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 10th place gets 1 point. I think that's perfectly fine. So we're going to go through this, and we're just going to kind of talk about how the playoffs would work out under this format, and I want you guys to tell me if you think that this would work. So going into Darlington, it's the same thing. It's going to be, if you win a race, you're into the next round. But we're going to keep adding points throughout the round. So you don't get a clean slate if you make it to the second round. You keep adding points on. The only way to move on is to be out of the bottom 3, or to win a race, you move on just to the next round. So since it's 12 drivers, 3 drivers get eliminated after every round. So looking at this, after Darlington, Kyle Larson won that race. That's why he gets the W. Here are the points. I'm not going to go into, I'm not going to arrange it from highest to least because I'm just going backwards on this. So we can kind of just eyeball it from here. But you can see Kevin Harvick had a bad race. Joey Logano had a bad race. So they're already at the bottom. Christopher Bell had a really bad race. He's down at the bottom as well. You see him, guys like Ross Chastain are already starting from behind. This is the race. Denny Hamlin dominated this race. I think he had a loose wheel. Tyler Reddick made the mistake on pit road, or trying to get onto pit road, and caused a crash with Ryan Newman. Kevin Harvick got kind of screwed over by that because he was on pit road, had a chance to win that race, but the caution came out and they completed their pit stop, which was a penalty, so he fell back. Kyle Larson ended up holding on to Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher for that win. So this is how that works out. So Larson, we're going to keep adding the points, but he is at least on to the next round. So the latest he can get eliminated is the Roval. Next race was at Kansas. This race was won by Tyler Reddick, so he's on to the next round. If you see a W, you can kind of just tell. That means they won the race. They're moving on. And looking at it now, Kevin Harvick is still at the bottom, near the bottom at least. Joey Logano had a pretty good run. He stayed out on the last caution and almost won the race. He was on the front row with Eric Jones on that green-white checker. So this was a pretty good run for him to really pick up some playoff points. Martin Truex Jr., the regular season champion, by the way, crashed on about the third lap of the race, just blew a tire, and he was already looking like he might not make the next round after winning the regular season championship. it's easy to forget just how disastrous the first round went for Larson. Buescher had a bad run this race, so he's near the bottom. But right now it looks like the bottom three are Harvick, Logano, and Martin Truex Jr. The next race was at Bristol. That was won by Denny Hamlin. This was the cutoff race. So looking at it now, Logano got in a wreck. Harvick had a really bad run. And Truex does not look like he did enough to move on to the next round, which means these three drivers would have gotten eliminated. Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, and Kevin Harvick. Logano and Harvick were first-round exits in the original playoffs. This time he added on Martin Truex Jr., who just by the smallest of margins was able to move on to the next round in real life. But these drivers, all these drivers keep their points. We're not resetting. The only difference is we're going to add 1,000 points to everyone. So the playoff drivers remain at 2,000, but they're going to keep adding their points too. I'm just not going to calculate those. So 12th through 4th are still going to try to accrue as many points as they can to determine those positions. Next race was at Texas. You can see now we're up to 3,000 points each. William Byron was the race winner. So he has a W. He's moving on to the round of 8, and he's quickly leading the point standings. Denny Hamlin is, I think this might have been a typo. I can't remember what happened. Oh, this is Denny Hamlin. Never mind. Denny Hamlin was leading the points. William Byron was second. Kyle Larson was running third. So right away, kind of like in real life, these guys were serious contenders to win that championship. Larson probably would have been the points leader leaving this race because he really dominated the second half of this race, but got in an accident battling Bubba Wallace for the lead late, set him all the way back. So looking at it now, Kyle Busch had a wreck. He's looking to potentially get eliminated early this round. Same with Ross Chastain. Chris Buescher had a struggle this week. Christopher Bell didn't have a great run, but he finished 4th. So he's above water right now, but he's not exactly safe. Next race was at Talladega. That race was won by Ryan Blaney. He's not in the playoffs, so no one advances or locks themselves into the next round from here. Kyle Busch, another bad run. Ross Chastain as well, another bad run. Keselowski had a problem late. He won a stage, but ended up crashing in that big wreck late in the race. And you could just kind of see William Byron and Denny Hamlin are still the top two. That's going to be interesting to follow because, again, we continue adding points. So let's move on to the Roval. And this was won by A.J. Allmendinger. He's not in the playoffs as well. So it's just as simple who are the bottom three. Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, and Brad Keselowski are eliminated. But like I said, they're just going to go back to 2,000 points. So Keselowski will have 2,190 points. Chastain will have 2,181 points. Kyle Busch will have 2,150 points. And they'll race with Truex, Logano, and Harvick for the rest of the positions. They'd be racing for potentially up to 4th place. And the worst driver, obviously, would be in 12th place for final standings. Next race was at Vegas. This is the round of 8 now. Kyle Larson will race for the championship now because he held off Christopher Bell for the win. Bell was surging. At this point, he's at 32.76. But Denny Hamlin and William Byron are still kind of taking control of things. Byron really is starting to emerge as the favorite. He had a great run at the Roval and a pretty good run at Vegas. So he now has a 15-point lead over Denny Hamlin. And that is especially going to matter after Homestead because Christopher Bell won that race. So he leapfrogs both of them into the championship 4 with Kyle Larson. And remember, like I said, 3 drivers get eliminated every round. There's only going to be 3 drivers with a chance at the championship come Phoenix. So it's going to come down to whether or not Byron or Hamlin advances, and whoever advances is going to have a serious chance to win the championship because those two are first and third in points. Larson, I take that back actually. Hamlin dropped down to 4th in points either way because he wrecked at Phoenix or at Homestead. Bell leapfrogs him, and Larson is pretty close behind Byron with 25 points separating the two. So now it comes down to Martinsville. Ryan Blaney won this in real life. Bell is in at 33.54. Larson is in at 33.65. But Byron makes it in over Denny Hamlin. So those three are eliminated, and the championship would have come down to William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell. But remember, like I said, the championship, it's the same thing. You're adding your points. So Byron enters the championship race with an 18-point lead over Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell enters the championship race 29 points behind. The only way you can make up those points, if you don't, you can either make up those points or you can win the race. So Byron just needs a good points day unless Larson or Bell wins. If any of them win, they're the champion. But unless they're able to make up those points, it's William Byron's. And as we know, Ross Chastain won the race. The Cup Series does not give stage points to drivers in the Championship 4. In real life, all three of the drivers were in the Championship 4, so I could do that math myself based on how they finished in the stages. Bell comes in at 33.57. He wrecked in that race. His championship was over. Larson finished third in the race. He ends up with 3,409 points. Byron finished fourth and earned 3,433. So under this format, William Byron would have been your champion by 24 points over Kyle Larson. Christopher Bell would have finished in third. Trying to do that math, that looks like it is 76 points behind William Byron. So that's how that would have worked. Is this perfect? No. Is this going to get adopted? Also no. But looking at these 10 races, you can't argue who the most consistent driver was. It was William Byron. Even if Denny Hamlin made it, he is exactly where Christopher Bell is in points. He would not have had a chance to make up those points on Byron, and he also didn't win the race. So by that measure, the most consistent driver in the playoffs won, while also kind of having that Game 7 moment of Larson and Bell having the chance to pull off the upset and win the race a la Tony Stewart in 2011. But that's not what happened. They had their chance and it didn't work out. So that's how the 2023 playoffs would have worked under this format. It's not perfect. I know it, but it's just an idea. I also have the 2022 playoffs we can look at as well. With 2022, obviously, there were 17 winners in the regular season. Was it 16 or 17? I think it was 16 because Kurt Busch won but didn't make the playoffs. Ryan Blaney made it in but didn't win a race. He was the only driver that didn't. So this is how the playoffs would have looked. These are the playoff drivers. I didn't hide this or anything like that, so just focus on the column that I have and try not to get spoiled. So Chase Elliott entered the playoffs as the favorite, or as the points leader, which made sense because he had a great regular season. Logano, Chastain, Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Truex, Hamlin, Blaney, Reddick, Harvick, Bell, Kyle Busch were the 12 drivers. It was 1 through 10. The wild cards in this year were Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin, who both had 2 wins and sat between 11th and 20th in points. So some drivers that didn't make the playoffs: Austin Dillon, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe. I'm forgetting some, but Martrex Jr. is the guy that does make the playoffs in this format because he was really good in the regular season, was top 10 in points. He should have a chance to compete for that championship. I had to do all this math mentally for Truex as long as he was in it because he didn't have playoff points. So for the first couple of races, it was easy just to copy the numbers down on Racing Reference. This one I do freehand. So the first race was Darlington. That was won by Eric Jones. Logano ended the race as the points leader because Elliott wrecked in that race, so he already kind of has his back against the wall. But Truex was leading late, blew up. Kyle Busch led, I think, 55 laps in this race and blew up right after Truex did. And Harvick, his car caught fire. You remember the crappy-ass parts comment that Harvick had after getting knocked out of that race. Next race was at Kansas. This was won by Bubba Wallace. And right away, Kevin Harvick has his back against the wall. He wrecked early on with Daniel Suarez. I think it was Daniel Suarez. He was battling with Suarez. Kyle Busch had a bad race as well. Tyler Reddick won the pole. I think lost a tire. His race was cut short as well. This is interesting. The first 4 races, playoff drivers that are in this playoffs, didn't win. Bristol was won by Chris Buescher. And you can see the eliminated drivers: Tyler Reddick, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick. And right away, you could see some favorites. Christopher Bell had a monster first round. He had a 22-point lead at this point over Byron. Hamlin was surging in third. Elliott made it back up to fourth after a bad start. He finished second at Bristol. And Kyle Larson is right behind in fifth. Once again, we reset the points. Drivers just get an extra 1,000. They go to 3,000 points now. And Tyler Reddick won this race, but he's eliminated. So once again, no one locks their way in. Byron takes the... Ooh, I did not mean to do that. Byron takes the points lead now over Christopher Bell because Bell had a bad run this race. This is the race where everyone was having tire issues. So this is also the race where Byron intentionally spun Hamlin under caution. He got a points penalty, then got the points back. So that cancels out. I'm not doing that math on my own. He didn't end up losing any points. He remained net neutral in terms of points. So we're not going to change those. Hamlin would probably like some points back because of that, because he lost spots. But now he's tied for second with Bell. Then it's Larson, Chastain, Logano, Blaney, Elliott, and Truex heads back against the wall early. Talladega, you can see now we have a driver locking their way in, and it's Chase Elliott, who immediately goes to the top because he has the win, but he's not leading the points. It's just how this works out. Byron is looking good. Hamlin's looking good. Once again, it's these two guys really battling for the top spot in the playoffs. Larson is at 31.85, and you can just see what that win did for Elliott because he was second to last after Texas, and he's now in a three-way tie for fourth. I think that's fourth spot with Christopher Bell and Ross Chastain, as Blaney, Logano, and Truex were the bottom three, potentially facing elimination at the Roval. And the Roval was won by Christopher Bell. And you can see Joey Logano, the champion in 2022, doesn't make it to out of the second round. He really caught fire in the third round onward, winning Vegas and Phoenix. Doesn't get that far in 2022. I didn't plan that either. I promise you I don't have any beef with Team Penske. It's just how this ended up working out. I was as surprised as you guys were when I was doing this math. So Joey Logano misses it by 5 points. Chastain misses it by 6. And then Martin Truex Jr. just really had a rough round. He gets eliminated as well. So now we go on to Vegas. And it's the same thing. You win a race, you're into the championship 4, but we're keep adding points. So no one in the playoffs won it because it was Logano. So Hamlin takes the points lead over Byron. And then they're racing for third after that. It's 3 points between them. And then you have to go 35 points to get to Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Larson, who is still in it after missing the round of 8 in real life. But that matters because he won Homestead. So Larson puts himself in the championship 3, I should say, as Byron takes the lead over Hamlin, and Elliott, Bell, and Blaney remain 4, 5, 6, needing something good to happen. And it does for one of them. Christopher Bell won this race. Kyle Larson is in, and it comes down to Hamlin and Byron. And Hamlin got the better of Byron this day. So by 14 points, Denny Hamlin is going to the championship over Byron. And then Elliott and Blaney get eliminated. So you can I'm kind of spoiling for you right now. We're going to zoom this in a little bit, just so I can explain it a little bit better. So going into the championship 4 for this year, Denny Hamlin is the favorite. He's got a 52 points to Larson's 16. That's a 36-point swing. And then Bell is 42 points back. So for all intents and purposes, they need to win the championship. Larson and Bell both need nothing else but a win. And Hamlin, as long as they don't win, can just have a good points day. This shows you run well throughout the whole playoffs, you can afford to take it a little bit easier at Phoenix. Obviously, you're at the mercy of those other 2 drivers. If they win, can't really do anything. But there's 36 drivers out there. Everyone wants to win. He can have just a good, solid day. And unless they do something crazy, Denny Hamlin would win the championship. And that's what happened. Hamlin had a good day. Logano won the race. He's at 3,381 points. Bell finished in 10th. He's at 33.42. So he gained, but not enough. He's 39 points back. And Kyle Larson only put up 38 points in this race. Not enough. So by 27 points, Denny Hamlin would have been the 2022 Cup Series champion. We finally found a format where Denny Hamlin is a champion. Kyle Larson would have come in second once again, and Christopher Bell would have come in third once again. We nearly had the exact same championship three as we did in 2023. It didn't work out like that. Denny Hamlin would have been the champion in this. So this is how I think the playoffs could work. It's complicated, I know, but I think this is the best of both worlds. You have your consistency, you have the best drivers getting in. I think 12 drivers is a better size for the playoffs than 16. That's nearly half the field. I know NASCAR likes the extra money that teams get for 4 of the teams making the playoffs, but I'll be honest, I don't care about that. I want the best product. I want the best possible. If you're going to have playoffs, I want it to be as good as you can possibly make it. And I think this would be an improvement. You have win and you're in the playoffs. You have the best drivers going at it. And you have the potential for game 7 moments. Larson and Bell being desperate to get a win. Who knows what they could have done. But I want to know what you guys think. This is just something I've been discussing. I first mentioned it with my good friend Caleb Vestal after the Kansas race. We recorded a show following Kyle Larson's thrilling win at Kansas. And I want to put my money where my mouth is and actually, spell it out and see what you guys think. I'm really looking forward to having a discussion about this format. Do you think it's good? Do you think it sucks? Do you think it needs changes? What do you recommend? I'm all ears. I would love to have a discussion with that. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching the Harry Loomis Show, and we'll talk to you again soon. This is the Harry Loomis Show.